We have a massive New York Jets head coaching update as Josh McCown has been revealed in a shocking report to only want the head coaching job, meaning he would not come over with Brian Flores if the New York Jets were to go and hire him. And we're going to break this all down as Aaron Glenn still is the favorite to be hired by the New York Jets and who I'd expect the Jets to hire. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here. We just had the realization that the majority of my name, all the letters are shared in the word gopher. So we're going to jump right in and talk about that only. Okay, wait, no, this isn't Gopher Digest. This is Jets Digest. I really wish I didn't make that joke. It wasn't very funny at all. But in a new report from Adam Schefter, it was revealed that Josh McCown, or Osh McCown apparently, as I typed it in, is going to be in Minnesota next year unless he gets a head coaching job. Now it's known that the New York Jets did interview McCown for the head coaching position, and it's very clear that he's a long shot. No one's really expecting the New York Jets to hire Josh McCown as the head coach. There was the thought that maybe he'd come over as the offensive coordinator, specifically if Brian Flores was hired. There was a lot of news of that trio of Flores, Josh McCown, and the GM's name I'm forgetting because I did just wake up, so I'm kind of fuzzy right now, Matt. But looking at McCown, obviously spent 2 years with the New York Jets, spent time with Sam Darnold, back with Sam Darnold. If Brian Flores were to leave, I imagine Josh McCown would have a pretty solid shot at the Vikings head coaching job, but it doesn't seem like Brian Flores is going anywhere. Did I say Josh McCown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you said Vikings head coaching job. I'm just gonna take over here.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. So, well, no, the Vikings head coaching job isn't going anywhere, and Brian Flores is the DC of the Vikings. Okay, so maybe I misheard you. Okay, so Josh McCown was one of the top favorites to be the New York Jets head coach. Well, okay, here's what it was. Brian Flores was one of the favorites to be the New York Jets head coaching options, and the expectation was he was going to bring in Josh McCown to be his offensive coordinator with him. Josh McCown is currently the quarterback's coach for the Minnesota Vikings. For some reason, a lot of internet websites are telling me the offensive coordinator. That's not true. He's the quarterback's coach. But looking at how the quarterbacks have fared this year, or the quarterback has fared, very important. Sam Darnold is having a career year, 66% completion percentage, 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns, all career highs. He threw only 12 interceptions, which is pretty high even for him for interceptions, but you have to balance that out with the fact that he played 17 games this year. His current career high in games played in a season was 13 before that. So really good season out of Josh McCown. The number one most important takeaway from this headline is the fact that if Brian Flores is the head coach, who would his offensive coordinator be? Because it's not going to be Josh McCown. He just came out and said he doesn't want that job. So his offensive coordinators that he had in Miami, they kept turning over. He didn't have the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row. So he wouldn't know who his offensive coordinator would be should he go to the New York Jets. And also, did we want McCown? I know he has the connections with the New York Jets, being the quarterback and all, but he would have been the most experimental hire possible. I know I always talk about swinging for the fences and taking risks, but at some point, there are smart risks and there are not smart risks. And Josh McCown, I say swing for the fences, but Josh McCown would have been swinging for the fences with a blindfold over your eyes because it would have been, he doesn't have a track record of coaching that you can look at and say, that's definitely the guy who's going to be a successful head coach in the league. He only started coaching a couple of years ago because he was playing quarterback for so long. And when he has been a coach, he has been successful at it. I understand that. For me, he needs to have a longer track record before we determine that he's going to be the next head coach for the New York Jets.
Yeah, I think with Josh McCown, the offensive coordinator role would have made sense, especially if the Jets were to go and hire Brian Flores. I don't expect them to. I still think it's going to be Aaron Glenn, as I said in the intro, but you look at him, it would be cool to see him as an OC. It feels like he might be able to do a very good job at that, considering he was a great quarterbacks coach for the Vikings. His coaching career started with the Panthers. He was there with Bryce Young. Obviously didn't oversee the Bryce Young turnaround, but he was there with Young. Also, now being with the Panthers, being with the Vikings, being with the Vikings, being part of the Darnold turnaround, being a huge part in it because Darnold's known and trusted McCown for years, dating back to the Jets days. It would have made sense for the Jets to hire someone who would likely bring in McCown as an offensive coordinator. And the Jets did interview McCown for the head coaching position. but it just feels like it would be, as you said, it's swinging for the fences with a blindfold on. It feels like it's just such an not irrational hire, but it just feels like you're hiring someone has so much less qualifications for the job than basically anyone else you've interviewed up to this point, where it feels like the one reason the Jets would hire him, or really the two reasons the Jets would hire him, is because he played for the Jets and because Woody Johnson gets to make a flashy hire. It feels like those are the literal only two things going for McCown. I know he's been good as a Vikings quarterback coach, but it doesn't mean he should make the jump all the way up to head coach right now. I see why he wants to, and he's absolutely right to not want to leave a good situation unless he's becoming a head coach. That makes sense, but still, I feel like it's surprising that even if Flores got hired elsewhere and offered for McCown to be the OC, that he would not leave for that position. It would just make sense for him to do that. It just, I don't understand why Josh McCown is being so hell-bent on being a head coach. I think if it all comes down to it, it's probably because he loves his job right now. He loves where he is with the Vikings, and he doesn't want to go anywhere. It's more just the chance to be an NFL head coach plus the head coaching money is just you can't say no to that. Like, it's one of those situations where I don't think McCown wants to go anywhere at all, personally.
So for me, he has to prove his offensive prowess as a head coach somewhere where the coach of the team isn't already a guy that we know is a quarterback whisperer, a guy who is a phenomenal offensive head coach. The Vikings have Kevin O'Connell, who has a great offense every single year. So you have to think how much of it is Josh McCown and how much of it is Kevin O'Connell. Because I know for a fact Kevin O'Connell's a great coach. For Josh McCown, before he is even remotely considered to be the head coach of the Jets, I have to see him be an offensive coordinator in a situation where either the head coach is a defensive head coach or the head coach isn't an offensive guru the way Kevin O'Connell is. I want to feel better about Josh McCown as the reason for the offensive success and not just a part of it. He has to be a really, really strong reason. You got to say their offense is good and Josh McCown's the reason why. Right now, Kevin O'Connell's the reason why. Josh McCown's a part, but not a big enough reason. Brian Flores, I mean, Chris, do you think Brian Flores, how realistic do you think he is as the New York Jets head coach coming up this year?
I would imagine he's certainly going to get a second interview. I would guess that they interview him again. I don't think they'll hire him, but I do think I imagine he's higher up on the list than a handful of guys. I'd still be surprised if it goes to anyone that's not named Aaron Glenn, but I would guess that out of the 16 people interviewed by the New York Jets, I would imagine Flores is in their top 5.
Top 5? Okay. But, yeah, we've talked about Aaron Glenn, and I know everyone watching this video is going to have the same thoughts about Aaron Glenn on this morning because two nights ago, Saturday night, the Detroit Lions gave up 45 points against the Washington Commanders. And a lot of Jets fans are thinking, is this really the guy we want? Because he's leaving Detroit with a bad taste in everyone's mouths. They thought they were going to win that game. They were big favorites. They were the 1 seed. They were rested coming off a bye. They were facing the 6 seed, not even the 4 seed like they were supposed to be. So it looked on paper, that looks really bad, right? But then you got to remember, first of all, one game does not shape the whole coaching career for Aaron Glenn. We were all in on him before that. You can't be all out now. If one game has that type of sway on who you think is going to be the head coach, that's a problem in your thinking, not a problem with the head coach. You can't let one game sway your opinion like that in football. There are outliers all the time. I'm not saying that was an outlier, but there are outliers all the time. Talking about the way the game went, Jared Goff threw a pick 6, so that's 7 points you can take off the board right there. Jameson Williams threw an interception. Jared Goff threw 2 more interceptions on top of the pick 6. They also had a fumble, 5 turnovers. It's tough to hold down any NFL team when you give them 5 extra possessions like that. And then it's not just any NFL team. It's Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, an offense that has been on fire all year, an offense that has gone multiple games in a row without their punter touching the field. So, of course, the defense wasn't going to be amazing. And it was not even the Lions' defense. There was no Aiden Hutchinson. There's no Aleem McNeil. There's no Carlson Davis. They lost Amik Robertson, one of their number 2 corner. His forearm snapped in half like 5 minutes into the game. They were down so many players. They're down Rodrigo as well, the talented linebacker. At some point, the injuries were going to catch up to them. Aaron Glenn did a really great job putting a defense together, even through those injuries. That one game, yes, it makes him look worse as a head coaching candidate. But yes, he's still my favorite head coaching candidate for the New York Jets by a country mile, and we need to bring him to New York.
I agree 100%. I'm not too swayed by this. As you mentioned, the Lions literally by the end of the season didn't have half of their starting defense. Half of them were gone.
They had either 16 or 18 players on IR leading the league, and they were still the 1 seed. The defense was still elite.
They had the 7th least points allowed per game this season, and half their defense by the end of the season was not there. That is insane. That is a lot of great work that you have to give to Aaron Glenn. Something real quick about McCown, though, just to bring that up for another second. I hate the saying, no matter what team you want to use it on, classic blank. No matter the team. I don't care if it's a team I like. I don't care if it's a team I don't like. For some reason, the saying bothers me. Maybe because I'm a Jets fan. Maybe because I'm a New York Knicks fan, and historically they weren't good up until a few years ago. But it's like, oh, classic Jets. Oh, classic Knicks. Classic insert bad team here. But, like, it would be such a classic Jets move to hire Josh McCown to be the head coach when he's an offensive head coach who's never been a play caller at the coaching level. It's just, I was thinking about that the entire time that we were talking about Glenn right there. And I was like, I have to bring this up because I hate the saying classic Jets or classic anything, but it'd be a classic Jets move to hire a guy who's never called a friggin' play as your offensively minded head coach. So I think it's another reason why the Jets should just go with Aaron Glenn. I'm not swayed by that game. As you mentioned, there were picks all over the place. That Jared Goff pick six was absolutely insane. The fact that that got returned was nuts because that was the slowest pick six I've ever seen in my entire life. Felt like watching that play took 5 hours. I was just waiting for the commercials on the UFC game to end, on the UFC match to end, so I could continue watching my minus 1,200 favorite in Peyton Talbot get absolutely just ragdolled around by some old Brazilian. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm not worried about Aaron Glenn at all. Personally, I don't think there's any reason to worry about Aaron Glenn, Matt. I think the Jets should hire him right now. I think, if anything, they have less competition now because someone's going to overreact. I just hope it's not Brick Johnson.
Yeah, because Brick Johnson does run the stuff around the New York Jets. We know that. Hopefully he doesn't overreact too much.
Hopefully. But, guys, if you think he's going to, comment down below. Let us know your thoughts down below. Let us know how dumb I sounded in that first 2 minutes of this video before I got up and walked away and had to recollect myself. And I just couldn't say anything right. Guys, like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Jets.